Welcome to Communing with Divine, a podcast where I share my spiritual quest and the lessons and the insights that I've received from many divine beings and energies during meditation. I am your host, Meraki. Now, let's begin. Welcome back to the third episode of Communing with Divine. This is a long one, and so I've had to break it into two parts. This is part one. January the 16th, 2022. I am in my universe surrounded by all of those whom I have called in. I'm apologizing to them, and I'm saying that if I had realized how precious my soul energy was, I would have made better and more cautious choices that honored its vibration more. Because throughout my life, I have often given my thoughts and my emotions to people and to situations that did not honor my soul energy. And looking back, there were times, I feel, that I behaved in ways that did not reflect or honor my soul vibration. I should have protected my soul energy from being exposed unnecessarily to the darkness of others and from my own darkness. And as I'm doing this, I hear, no, not the darkness. It is not the darkness that is to be avoided. It is the perversion of light. The light perverted is the danger, not the darkness. Darkness allows for contrast. Darkness allows for light to be seen, for it to shine forth, for its beauty to be appreciated in your conscious reality. It is not the darkness of which I speak. I speak of the perversion of light. I'm being shown that darkness has a very specific and delineated role, and it's not the role of being the bad guy, so to speak. They are saying darkness is not evil as you call it. The perversion of light is the evil, because it is the taking of something that is pure and perfect and twisting it into something that is impure and imperfect. They're explaining that it's the act of taking unconditional love and perverting it into control and abuse, while at the same time masking itself and presenting itself as quote-unquote love. It is the destructor of hope. It interferes with our connection to the light. It blurs our ability to see and to know our true selves. It overlays and smothers all that is pure, all that is truth. It is the foundation for all of the pain in our world. It is painted and dressed up to present itself as true light. It wears a false cloak of illumination. And because there is light within it, the ruse is convincing. We follow it to our peril, for most of us will suffer from exposure to the light perverted. Our true light, our soul will often hide from it by surrounding itself with the light perverted, like camouflage. Sometimes we can't hide or camouflage ourselves, and we are directly affected by it. And when this happens, our suffering is great. But we can always heal, because our true light can never really be perverted or sullied. It is always perfect, it is always untouched, patiently waiting for us to recognize it, to accept it, and to let it shine unimpeded by fear, not smothered or hidden by the cloak of the light perverted. Light is light. Darkness is darkness. They complement and balance each other. Darkness can be peace and solitude. Darkness can be a retreat, a turning inwards. Darkness is space, like the space between all of the stars or the space between light particles. Darkness is the womb of creation. Darkness is a beautiful thing, just like light is a beautiful thing. The light perverted, however, is a terrible thing, and it's very dangerous. Darkness doesn't present itself as light. Darkness presents itself as itself. It doesn't pretend to be something that it's not. Darkness harms no one. It's the light perverted that misleads. because it presents itself as light. It says, come, trust me, look, we are the same. But it's not the same. It's an abomination, and a dangerous one at that. And this is what we refer to as evil. For the light perverted exists to do great harm. The light perverted is fear projected outward into the world. The light perverted is fear directed inwards towards our essence. The light perverted is fear, and fear is a lie. Fear is deception. Fear is the original sin, and fear is what binds us to the light perverted. Fear is what gives power and sustenance to the light perverted. It is we ourselves who hand our energy and our power over to it. We each have the ability to starve it of its strength. It cannot sustain itself if we do not provide it with the sustenance that it needs and the protection that it gets from us. And we do protect it. Think about it. Think about how the tools of the light perverted, which are fear and ego, combine with one another to both defend and attack anything or anyone that threatens their master. We go to great lengths to attack the truth so that we can protect a lie. What will we do and say to convince others and to convince ourselves that the misbeliefs, deceptions, and half-truths that we have come to believe in are, in fact, lies? The sky is the limit. Lies and deceptions that we have been raised with or have chosen to believe in and to ally ourselves with. Things that are based in fear, not love. All because we have become accustomed to the masks that we have made for ourselves, crafted from the mistruths that we have been raised in, chosen to believe, or created ourselves. And all of this because we fear truth, which ironically is not to be feared. The light perverted and its tools of fear and ego are the unholy trinity that are the foundations of all of the suffering and pain that we experience here on earth. They are like a virus in our program. From what I understand at this point, the light perverted is the result of the abuse of the most beautiful and trusting gift we were given, the gift of free will. We do not need the light perverted or the extreme cycles of suffering that it brings in order to learn and to grow. It's unnecessary. It's an abomination that came from the abuse of the gift of free will that we were graced with, and yet we allow it. In fact, we feed it, we protect it, we nurture it, and only the collective we can eradicate it from our program. But will we? How will we? Where do we begin? Luckily, as well as the gift of free will, we were also given the gifts of forgiveness and empathy. These are our hope. Empathy and forgiveness can purge the light perverted from our energetic fields, from within us, and from our world. When we recognize that we have not honored our true light and we humble ourselves, when we show empathy to and for others and for ourselves instead of sitting in judgment, by asking for forgiveness and by forgiving others, we can inoculate ourselves against the various manifestations of the light perverted that affect us and that we have succumbed to. In this way, we can begin to free ourselves and deny the light perverted access to our power, our energy. And in this way, we can starve it. We can deny it the ability to continue to twist and distort light. We free ourselves from it, from its influence, from its grip. But we have to look within ourselves with honesty and without fear. We have to show ourselves empathy for our mistakes and forgive ourselves for the pain that we have caused. And we have to extend the same courtesy to others. We would be lost without the power of forgiveness and of empathy, and of the free will to choose to use these gifts. And for that, we should be grateful. Now, before I go on with what happened with the rest of the session, I want to share some thoughts about what came through to me up to this point. It seems that there are many people who accept suffering as an integral part of this program, of this conscious reality. Many believe that suffering is the only way for us to learn our quote-unquote lessons and to grow spiritually. They believe suffering is the only path to quote-unquote leveling up, as they call it. They believe that suffering is the most effective way for people to raise their vibrations. Clearly, this belief is incompatible with mine, so let me share my thoughts with you about this. If you commit thought and emotional energy to the idea that suffering is an essential part of this program, and believe this to be a fact of this conscious reality, then how can we ever change our current trajectory or the vibration of this reality? How can we ever change the path that we are on individually or collectively? How can we shift and raise up our energy and that of the earth when it is so saturated with pain and suffering, with so many of us drowning in fear? How can this mindset or belief lead to a positive outcome? And honestly, ask yourself, is suffering really the best way to grow spiritually or to develop positively in any way? How can we ever, quote unquote, level up spiritually under those circumstances? It's absurd. As far as I can see, this mindset, this belief system, is not based in truth or in unconditional love. It is based in fear and in personal pain. It strives in desperation to find meaning in everything that somebody has endured. It is an attempt to find a spiritual or a divine reason for all of the suffering. But if we follow this mode of thinking and these beliefs, then we're just holding attitudes that add to the heavy energy that weighs us all down, and we remain wallowing in misery and in suffering. It's a form of madness. I think so, anyway. Think about the Light Perverted. It seems that we had a hand in creating it or in allowing it. It didn't happen to us. It happened because of us. We perpetuated it. We fed this Light Perverted, and we created an environment in which it could thrive. And it has. So we should think very seriously about changing this foundational mindset that suffering is the best path to spiritual growth. I can't think of too many spiritually minded people who would agree with the statement, spare the rod, spoil the child. Where is the real difference in applying this mindset, whether it is to the physical or to the spiritual? Children don't need to be beaten in order to learn manners or the 3 R's or anything else for that matter. And humans don't need suffering to learn spiritual lessons, to grow, or to raise their vibration. Empathy, compassion, patience, kindness, and love are the better path to spiritual growth. But those are only my thoughts. And now that I've shared this, let's continue with my session. I'm speaking to the divine, and I'm saying that I want to understand. I say, please help me to understand what you are showing me. What I'm seeing and understanding is that this conscious reality has become imbalanced. There's a difference between being presented with challenges and the level of suffering that is present here, right now. I'm seeing abuse, extreme abuse, and extreme suffering. It's the extremes. What I am understanding is that the extremes are not needed, and we are blaming things outside of ourselves for this, when it has only ever been ourselves. We blame outside forces, but we are the ones who are culpable. We, as an entire group of beings, have brought this in, fed it, and allowed it to grow. It's like we inserted a code into the program, or really more like a virus. I just heard Divine say, more than once. I think it means that we have messed up our program before in the exact same way. The sages are coming forward, the sages Balthazar and Melchior. They are talking about sin, but they're using the word sin differently than we do. They ask, what is sin? Sin is the perversion of the light. Sin is not all of these petty things, all these petty things that people concern themselves with and that harm no one. They are really emphasizing the perversion of light. They are showing me images now. I see a twisting, a distortion of the light. The light they are talking about is the light of the divine, which is a part of us and of the all. I ask them, why is this a sin? The sages reply, it is an abomination. It is an abomination. The perversion of light is an abomination. I think I'm beginning to understand. They are showing me that this perversion creates a new energetic life form. It's the only way I can explain this. What I am understanding is that the perversion, the distortion of light, gives birth to a new type of energetic life form, which spreads almost like a virus. They're showing me that it is spreading very quickly, multiplying quickly. And it's because there is a form of light within the light perverted, so it can deceive and then affect other light forms quickly, subtly, often without anyone ever realizing that they've been affected or infected. That's why it's so dangerous and why it's been so successful. There was never a fear from the darkness. When light comes up to darkness, light recognizes the darkness. And when darkness comes up to light, darkness recognizes the light. But with a perversion, a distortion of light, we often don't recognize it because it can pretend to be something else. It can present itself as something that it's not. It can emphasize the light aspect of itself so that we don't notice the distortion. And in this way, it can enter into our energetic fields and affect us. And it spreads like a virus because we don't see the symptoms of the infection. It seems that this is why we have such extreme suffering and abuse. This was introduced, it got out of control, it got out of hand. And we're focusing on the wrong things. The Archangel Michael is coming forward. He's asking me if I understand why this is so important. I say that I think I understand. He's saying that this lesson has to be expressed to others so that they can understand as well, so that they can see. Because we are the only ones who can fix this. No one can do this for us. Only we can. He's saying that it's very important. The Archangel Michael is being very serious and really emphasizing this point. So I ask him, what am I supposed to do? He's explaining that at first, I'm just supposed to understand it and process it to a point where I can articulate it to others. And then I ask him, what about critical mass? How many of us need to achieve this in order to change the program, and for the change to take an effect? What is the critical mass? And I don't know why, but the Archangel Michael seems really amused by my question for some reason. He finally replies, a critical mass of 1. A critical mass of 1? I tell him that I don't understand, but he won't explain what he means. But he assures me that I will come to understand this in time. The Archangel Raphael has come forward. She says, child, understand. There is too much sacrifice, too much pain. She's explaining that it's become too dense down here. Dense from fear, dense from the pain and from the suffering, dense from the distortion and the perversion of the light. But we are all looking at the darkness as the culprit, as the source of the suffering. We look to push back the darkness and to stand against the darkness. But the darkness isn't the problem. We are being misled and distracted. And it's the light perverted, the perversion of light that distracts us. It makes us think that the darkness is the enemy in order to divert our attention and our energy away from it, in order to protect itself. The light perverted points to the darkness and conflates it with fear and with evil in order to make it the scapegoat, to make the darkness the source of our suffering and our struggles, even though it's not. The Archangel Raphael is being quite adamant that we must understand this. We must redirect our attention to the real source and the cause of the afflictions here in our conscious reality. If we don't, then the balance and our battle is lost. The Archangel Gabriel has come forward. He says, "Hear me." What I'm understanding from him is that there was a fluidity that was built into the program. We call that fluidity free will. But free will was not respected, and so it became twisted. It became a justification for selfishness and for self-indulgence. We lost, or we chose to relinquish, our understanding of the purpose of this amazing and beautiful gift. We forgot that free will must come from the heart and be guided by our soul essence, both of which resonate with the energy of the divine, of the all. It was not meant as a tool of the ego and the ego's illusions that come from fear. And so free will became twisted because we used it as a tool to override the free will of others. We didn't respect the free will of others. We only sought to exercise our own free will. And so at this point, this is what I am understanding. Free will was the fluidity that was built into this program. Initially, it was respected, and we could flourish here. We could experience and grow through the challenge of the physical without the extremes of suffering and abuse that we experience now, the extremes that we would consider to be evil. The Archangel Gabriel is showing me pictures now. I'll try to describe them. There were struggles, of course. I'm seeing different kinds of struggles. We were too cold. We were too hot. We were wet from the rain. We got hungry. Sometimes we felt sad, or we got sick or injured. We lost loved ones, and so we experienced grief. So it seems as if there was suffering, but it was contained within a limited parameter of what was required for us to experience and grow in our understanding of this particular physical reality. Now the Archangel Gabriel is explaining more. He's explaining that the first distortion, the first perversion of light, was not a so-called apple. The first true distortion was a murder, a killing. This is the ultimate abuse of someone else's free will, the taking of someone's life who has incarnated here to experience this conscious reality is the greatest expression of ego overriding the gift of free will. I'm not being shown how this distortion, this perversion of light entered our program, or why it was able to manifest itself, but it did manifest. And over time, there was a buildup of this perversion of light within us. And this buildup led to a murder. And it was this act of murder that solidified this distortion into our program, into our reality. It began affecting people in small ways. And as it did, it spread. As it spread, it built up its strength and its intensity. And it honed its ability to infiltrate and influence us. And it seems that once it got to a certain point, the perversion of light was able to concentrate itself intensely within this one person. And this concentration of light perverted led this person to murder another. It was murder. The Archangel Gabriel confirms this. He says, "Yes, child." The Archangel Uriel is coming forward and is explaining why I feel so strongly that our experience here doesn't have to be so extreme. The Archangel Uriel is saying that I have within me an active memory of the before time, before the perversion, before the distortion of light. Somewhere within me, I carry that memory, and this memory is active. The Archangel Uriel is explaining that we all have this memory, but for many of us, it's a dormant memory. But it's in there if you choose to look for it and activate it. This is why I feel so strongly that causing suffering to others, the abuse of others, and of their free will is neither acceptable nor necessary. It's out of place, and this is because of the active memory that I hold. And from what I can understand, it is the sin. Not sin in the way that we normally use the word, though. Not in the way that religious and other belief systems use it or define it as. The word sin here is being used as the sin, not something petty that harms no one. This sin harmed every one of us, from the time that it occurred all the way to this present moment. As it was explained before, this sin was against the light that is our divine selves. It was a twisting and distorting of that light. And then we, ourselves, solidified it into our own program. That is the original sin. And I have an active memory that it wasn't always this way, and it doesn't have to be this way. The Archangel Uriel says, this knowledge is important. This knowledge is important. The Archangel Uriel is saying that I must hold on to this knowledge, this memory, and I must share it so that other people who remember will feel the confidence to speak up, and that I must also try to encourage others to awaken that memory that lies within them. This knowledge that we all hold within ourselves, because only awareness can bring about the end of this distortion. This program was written so that our soul energy could come here and experience things within a certain reality that had particular constraints and challenges. Free will was the fluidity within that program. But the free will was abused, and the fluidity was used in a way that it wasn't intended to be. It was misapplied. And over all this time that has passed since this event, we have done nothing to correct it. So that's why everything is spiraling out of control now. This distortion has been able to replicate so efficiently and exponentially, mostly because we don't see it. We don't identify it for what it is. In fact, we have been taught not to recognize it, not to identify it. We have been taught to normalize it and to excuse it, to defend it even. This distortion has been absorbed and merged with what we have come to consider as being understandable and acceptable human behavior. We even make excuses for it. We justify it. It's pervasive and it's insidious, and it's very, very contagious, but we can't give up. We have to become aware. We have to remain ever vigilant, because the minute we dull our awareness and become distracted, it can sneak in. And it seems that we can be affected by it even before we begin to understand that it even exists. Sometimes we're affected by it before we're even born, as we can be affected indirectly. We are very much exposed and affected by it throughout our childhood, both directly and indirectly, and obviously this continues into adulthood. As we move through life, we go from being affected by it to participating in spreading it, so that we reinforce it within our own energetic fabric and within the energetic fabric of other people. We are exposed to this distortive viral disease, and then we are taught that its presence and its expression are normal and acceptable. We're taught this through the beliefs and the behaviors of our families, our communities, and our societies. If you add to this the fact that most of us forget the memory we bring in with us of the before time, it makes sense that we are quite vulnerable to the perversion of light, the light perverted. The Archangel Uriel is showing me different ways that it can sneak in. For example, when we're distracted or when our guard is down. We're very vulnerable when we are with people or in places and in situations that we consider to be safe, authoritative, or holy, like a doctor's office or a school, at a political event, or with people who are respected and wield authority, or in a place of faith and worship. We are more vulnerable in these situations because of the trust that we hold for these people, these places, these institutions, and their representatives. Now, I'm going to stop here and continue the rest in another recording. So if you are still interested, please continue on to part 2. Thank you for listening.